Good morning, everybody. Dave here on this Tuesday, August 26, 2025. I got all your stories for your rush hour ride to work. We'll be talking about Blake Lively and her attempts to get sanctions against the attorneys for Justin Baldoni. We'll share what she has to say in that effort. Claims that they're smearing her and tainting the jury pool. It looks like they're already starting to make the play that if they lose this case, it's because the jury's tainted. Well, the image of Cracker Barrel is tainted after they've done a massive rebrand. We'll share some more thoughts as to why that rebrand even happened. And then some info on the haunted house that Matt Rife bought. And then we'll talk about the new law that's going to ban flag burning. Lots to get into. All this and more starts right now on The Rush. So before we get into this, I am going to read several segments of Blake Lively's 15-page document here, reply in support of Blake's motion for sanctions against defendants counsel. I know, it's a wordy title. Before we get into that, let's just open up on some fun news, like ghost hunting. Here's Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga reacting to comedian Matt Rife buying the real-life Conjuring house. As you guys know, they played the stars of the initial family that Ed and Lorraine Warren that owned the home in the Conjuring movies. Have a listen.
The Warrens' house and artifacts were recently purchased by Matt Rife, who is a comedian. Do you have any thoughts on that or any advice for him or people who want to come visit the house?
Don't do it.
No, but I'd love to pick his brain. Like I saw that, I clocked that, and I forwarded it to Patrick.
Yeah.
I was so curious as to what was going to happen with that piece of real estate. And I'm curious as to what his intentions are.
I know. It's a private little street. There's like neighbors everywhere. It's not like they lived in the same house for a long, long time. So it's not like some estate on a massive acreage. It's
right. It's not very private.
It's on a block.
It's like a ranch on a
normal house on a street in Monroe, Connecticut. There's nothing. So I am curious.
I hope to heaven he doesn't have a garage sale.
Yeah, I don't think he's allowed to sell any of the items from the house. And Matt Rife is worth $50 million. So again, when you have that kind of money, you just buy haunted houses. So either way, but isn't it kind of crazy for them to even play the ghost hunters, the paranormal experts? I don't know. It's just like you're welcoming demons into your world. But either way, there's their thoughts. Now we've got some Cracker Barrel nonsense. Obviously, this story's gone super viral. This idea that Cracker Barrel has besmirched the good name. They've ruined the brand. The nostalgia's gone. And my only thought was the food stunk. It wasn't good. It was chocked full of sugar, corn syrup and everything. But it wasn't good. But again, I'm not trying to take away from everyone's favorite childhood activity. But here is a lady that is not too happy.
In front of Cracker Barrel right now, like a crazy person, because I saw they were rebranding, and Cracker Barrel is like my childhood. Any spring break, we would always go with my grandparents, and I heard today that the peg games, they've changed, and they don't have the original rules on them anymore.
All right, so they've changed the rules on the peg game. Can you believe this, folks? Our world's burning. There's people dying and starvation. And there's a lot of issues out there. But the peg game at Cracker Barrel, and again, I'm not here to rain on people's parade. You missed what Cracker Barrel was. But maybe this is a good lesson for all of us to move on with our lives. You know what I mean? I don't know. If you're Waffle House, you should just be like, you know what? We are still the same. The floors are sticky. The waitress hates you. Someone's going to cough on your food. Waffle House, come get it. But either way, here is very interesting. Pearlmania 500 explains why Cracker Barrel has made the change and why Pizza Huts are now looking more like a box and McDonald's looks like a box. What's going on? So if you're listening to the audio only, it's a pretty interesting visual of how we've gone from restaurants with character to everything looking the same.
Is all because of Wall Street. This is all because of the stock market, because of investors, private equity, and the demand to get more value to shareholders. This has nothing to do with wokeness or DEI, you stupid sleeping babies. Okay? Let me explain this to you. McDonald's, the way McDonald's is structured is McDonald's owns the land underneath this building. They own the land. They're the biggest landholders in the United States when it comes to commercial properties. The franchisees then rent the building on top of them. And you know what happens? Sometimes McDonald's go out of business. And when McDonald's goes out of business, they want to put a different business in there and they want to sell the land underneath it. Well, guess what? When you have a building that can only be a McDonald's or can only be a Pizza Hut or can only be a Cracker Barrel or only be a Taco Bell, guess what? It's harder to sell those businesses.
And look, he's got a good point. And of course, this isn't going to apply to every aspect of like Cracker Barrel's rebranding. But when it comes down to it, these companies just want to sell as much product to as many people as possible. Corporations are psychopathic. I've said that before. They don't care about your feelings. They want to say what they can say to sort of pander to as many people and, whatever. And again, in a lot of ways, you might lose your core audience, but you might gain a bigger one. That just happens. What's funny about Pizza Hut is the Pizza Hut in my hometown in Middletown, Rhode Island. Someone might get this reference. They actually sold the Pizza Hut and it became a tanning salon. I think it's since been wiped out and it's now like a car dealership. But it's funny going to a tanning salon. They took the red roof and painted it like green, and you would just go tanning inside an old Pizza Hut. Which, by the way, us old millennials, we loved a good tan. Was there anything better than doing 12 minutes in a 20, burning your ass and getting those little bunny tattoos they gave, the little stickers they gave you? I loved a good tan, other than, causing cancer and things like that. The smell of burnt skin and coconut oil, wasn't it lovely? What is that? That's my nostalgia. Turn a Cracker Barrel into a spray tan booth and we'll have a business. All right, here it is. Doug Flutie, New England hero, has a woman returning a championship jacket to him. This is the most Boston story ever because you find out this jacket was probably stolen from him. Have a listen.
I'm Alex, GM with the Rocks here.
Great to see you.
Hey, if you have a quick second, this woman has a gift for you.
It's not every day a Hall of Famer gets a piece of his past back, but that's exactly what happened when Doug Flutie met a woman from Rockland, Massachusetts, who'd been holding on to something for more than 30 years.
Oh my goodness.
Well, when my son went to college at Colby College, and when he came home in 1993 with that jacket, I found it and I said, oh, that doesn't belong to us.
So either way, the jacket seems to have been stolen from a party, she says, and now it's finally making it back to Doug Flutie. Boston legend Doug Flutie, of course, with the Boston College Hail Mary. Later, became a Patriots quarterback and, a local hero. A hero for the small guys, wasn't a tall player. Whenever there's these short guys that make it, it's like, we can all make it. No, you can't. It's an anomaly. You can't make it. You're 5'7". You're not going to be a pro football player. I'm just letting you know. Prove me wrong there, Rudy or whatever. Okay, so let's move it on. Coming up next, we've got the Blake Lively updates. There's always updates. Today's update is she wants Brian Friedman to pay a price for what he has said publicly about her. This coming next. All right, in the grand scheme of Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni content, this isn't registering as a bombshell story, but it is interesting to see which legal maneuvers they are going for. I'm going to share several clips in a ChatGPT summary of this 15 pages of what Blake Lively is asking. But here she says, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman's statements are substantially likely to materially prejudice these proceedings. Presumptions aside, under any analysis, Mr. Friedman's statements attacking Miss Lively's character, credibility, and reputation have a substantial likelihood of prejudicing Miss Lively at trial. For months, Mr. Friedman has sowed into the minds of the potential jury pool that Miss Lively is a privileged elite, intentionally twisting and curating the law to weasel her way out of a self-concocted disaster that she couldn't handle, perhaps because of a narcissistic quality. Such comments clearly prejudice the due administration of justice and potentially interfere with a fair trial by publicly tarnishing the credibility of Miss Lively. Now listen, I guess the question is it okay to do if you're telling the truth? I honestly don't know. I don't know how much Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, is allowed to say publicly. What I do find interesting is that Blake Lively is now trying to sow doubt into the process of the jury pool. And, it's a good PR move by her if you don't see right through it. In the footnote, it said, it was Mr. Friedman who, on a podcast appearance with former client Billy Bush, argued that it is these TikTokers and people on YouTube. They're amazing. They're brilliant. Those types of people that have that type of information, that are willing to do that type of diligence, should actually be the jury one day. It has since been revealed through discovery that the Wayfair parties are colluding with several content creators, including Perez Hilton, Candace Owens, and Andy Signore of Popcorn Planet, to perpetuate some of the most hateful and anti-Lively rhetoric. Now, we don't know that, and that's the kind of this is obviously Blake Lively's characterization, calling it colluding, when in fact, really all we know is that when it came time to release a statement to the press, that Baldoni's, people, Brian Friedman, sent them a statement. That's really all we have, a statement, interviews. There really isn't anything sinister that has been uncovered, but what Blake Lively's side is looking to show here is that there is this underground pipeline of hateful rhetoric that's coming out, when in fact really the only thing that's been covered by Andy, Candace, or Perez is their own opinions about what Blake Lively has been up to. That's really all it is. ChatGPT gave this summation of the 15 pages. This filing is Blake Lively's reply brief in support of her motion for sanctions against attorney Brian Friedman in their ongoing litigation. Lively argues that Friedman repeatedly violated rules of professional conduct, as well as a February court order, by making public statements attacking her character, credibility, and reputation. According to her attorneys, Friedman's remarks calling Lively a liar, arrogant, and bully, and a privileged elite are presumptively prejudicial because they risk influencing the jury pool. The reply also addresses Friedman's defenses, rejecting his claims that his defenses were harmless, permissible as scheduling updates, or justified responses to publicity from Lively's side. Lively's counsel stresses that Rule 36 applies specifically to lawyers, not clients, spokespersons, or PR representatives. In conclusion, Lively requests sanctions in the court's inherent authority, asking for a public admonishment and reimbursement of costs and attorney's fees, while she reserves the right to seek harsher remedies, such as revocation of Friedman's pro hoc vice admission. If misconduct continues, she does not currently request that penalty. Her lawyers contend sanctions are necessary to curb Friedman's bad faith media campaign and preserve the fairness of the upcoming trial. They're just trying to preserve the fairness of the upcoming trial. All right, folks. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's great PR by her to claim that the jury pool is being tainted, but that's what they're doing. That's the game they're playing. All right, well, that's it for your pop culture update. Coming up next, we've got police taking guns off of licensed gun owners right on the streets. We've also got reporters calling out the administration for buying a percentage of intel, calling it communism, and so much more on flag burning. This all coming next. Well, these clips are making the rounds, and it's interesting to share. We've got a DC resident saying that the police basically stole the firearm during a traffic stop where they said they were allowed to have it. Police in DC take a licensed gun owner's firearm without probable cause.
You just took my gun from me. Can I get your name?
On the card, Officer Moore, badge number 5229.
Why you took my gun from me now?
It is a misdemeanor. You did not tell me that you were armed when you were stopped by the police.
And I asked you what's the probable cause, right? When you pulled up on me, did you ask me? You said I'm pulling you over for what? Did you say that?
So they go back and forth, and clearly there's no reasonable responses. But I show this because everyone's got this fear in the past. They've said, oh, you elect so-and-so, they're going to be taking the guns out of your hands. They've said this about Democrats that want to take away your Second Amendment rights. Meanwhile, they're literally taking guns out of legal gun owners' hands, and they're also getting rid of some protections from the First Amendment. In some cases, trying to deport people that speak out against wars. And now we're finding out, actually, they're getting rid of the protections for burning a flag, which has been considered political protest. Here we're going to discuss another wild update to the branding, where Trump is going to be renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
And on the Department of War, how do you plan to do that? It requires an act of Congress to rename the Defense Department to the Department of War?
We're just going to do it. I'm sure Congress will go along if we need that. I don't think we even need that, but if we need that, I'm sure Congress will go along. You know, that was the name when we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything. And just to me seems like just a much more appropriate. The other is defense is too defensive. And we want to be defensive, but we want to be offensive too if we have to be. So it just sounded to me better.
It sounded better. So there it is, folks. We're now going to have the Department of War, which again is already overfunded. And of course, listen, I mean, it's in most cases, it is offensive, the things that the Department of Defense does. They will use offensive, regime changes. They'll use offensive, policing on the international scene as a way to defend themselves. I don't think that's necessarily a good and healthy thing to do. I certainly don't think it should be branded as the Department of War, as that just shows kind of the cards at the face value for what they are. And I think that we should be saving a lot more of our taxpayer dollars to fight for Americans, to rebuild bridges and streets in the education system and fund healthcare. And I think we could do a hell of a lot of that with our taxpayer money not going to the Department of War. This is interesting. Backlash is growing with the Representative Mark Alford, a Republican from Missouri. He holds a town hall, and here's a constituent telling him to get his head out of Trump's ass. Have a listen.
I am pissed, and I'm pissed at you because I have emailed you, because it's easier for me than to try to talk on the phone without profanity. I would appreciate you taking your father's U.S. Constitution book, read it, study it, make your own lines underneath it, and get Trump out of office. The man is a dictator. He knows nothing about what he talks about. I listened to him for about a half hour today, and I got sick at all the lies he brought up. Now, I'm about ready to lose my farm. Do you know why? I'm sure you don't know why.
Lose your what, sir?
Farm.
Farm?
Yeah.
Why is that, sir?
Because Missouri does not have wills. They have trust. They have legal zigzags. And a trust, most people don't know anything about. So I'm dealing with a state that's a crooked state. You want to straighten out the budget? Start taxing corporations and the wealthy.
Wow.
Like we've been telling you. Do you think we're idiots? Do you think we don't pay taxes? Do you think that we don't have to make budgets? You talk about half-truths when I listen to you. You know nothing about taking care of children because you've always had a really good-paying job. You know nothing about what a working-class citizen does. Come down here. Come down here and start trying to pay your medical insurance. Come down here and walk into Costco to try to feed your family, to feed your kid that's moved out, to feed your great-grandchildren. I had a very good job in California, and I'm able to feed my family, and it goes all the way to great-grandchildren. You're not helping me. Believe me, you're not helping me. You need to take your head out of Trump's ass and start doing your representation of us.
You know what I love about this? You know, there's always this image like, oh, you're some beta cuck libtard. This is a salty farmer. You know, and I say salty, an older, mustached farmer, right? This isn't some guy who's worrying about woke words or whatnot. He's saying you're robbing us. You're effing robbing us. And that's what's happening out there. That the ultra wealthy aren't paying their fair share. That's the welfare state, right? The corporations that get bailed out by us. And, you know, you see this play out, and people are seeing how the new policies are bankrupting them. How many farms? I live in Tennessee. How many farms are going under because they've now made it illegal to farm marijuana or hemp when they had passed laws in the past, and all these farms had built this infrastructure around it, or they were building new barns due to the Infrastructure Act, and then that money's then taken away. So many people are getting stiffed in so many ways right now, and they're worried about things like changing the title of Department of Defense. And in this case now, the right to protest, which has existed in the First Amendment, peaceful protest. You've also been allowed to burn the American flag. People have fought for that right, not just because you're agreeing with it, but because you're fighting for the right to peacefully protest. Well, now burning a flag will mean 1 year in jail. Trump bans the act protected by First Amendment.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing.
And he goes in and talks a little bit more about it. Well, how quickly after that happened do we have a veteran detained outside the White House for burning an American flag? Now, of course, is this veteran, are they going to start locking up veterans who burn American flags? Is that what's going to happen? Obviously, this is a massively big deal and a huge PR disaster to see, again, another salty, older white gentleman who, being surrounded by Secret Service right now.
I'm being detained because I expressed my First Amendment right
Have a
to
listen.
burn the United States flag in public. Not causing harm or causing any danger to any citizens or personnel in the area. That's okay. So what we get when we have a fascist.
So there he is. He's saying there's a fascist government, and he was burning the American flag. There's a fire extinguisher there, and he was doing it to protest. And this is an American veteran willing to demonstrate how absurd this is. How absurd it is. We'll have updates as to whether or not he gets charged, and gets a year in jail. Here's one last interesting thing. I know we're a little politics heavy, but again, it's a wild time out there. A reporter calls out Donald Trump, who had called Kamala Harris a communist. Now, the Trump administration just purchased 10% of Intel, which is a very communist move. Have a listen to the response.
During the campaign, you called Kamala Harris a communist, but the Biden-Harris administration, they never called for nationalizing a private company with the federal government like you're proposing with Intel. What do you say to some who say this is a bit hypocritical, and is this the new way of doing industrial policy?
Yeah, sure it is. I want to try and get as much as I can. If people come in and they need something, as an example, as a real estate person, if I have an agreement and I have any form of a stopgap where I can stop somebody from doing something, right? I have a covenant in an agreement, and they come to me and they say, would like to do something, but you have us restricted. If I do that, they usually have to pay. Now, in the case of Intel, it was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it.
So he wants more cases like Intel. Again, this is what people were afraid of if a Democrat were in office, taking the guns out of people's hands, the military roaming the streets, communism as you buy corporations that are now government run. This is happening, and a lot of people are speaking out against it, but a lot of people are turning a blind eye because it's their side of the aisle doing it. So hypocritical, or will people stand up for what they have expressed the right to defend? The Constitution, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the 14th, and others. Really, people can choose now what side of the aisle they want to be on. The American side, the side that defends these freedoms, or the side that, says it's okay because my favorite president's doing it. We'll have to see. It's playing out in front of us. We'll be back this afternoon. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.